Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get started, please hit subscribe to follow all of my latest investing and personal finance content. And be sure to check the link on your screen for a special message from our sponsor, The Motley Fool, where you can find the 10 best stocks to buy now. One of the most common questions I get asked as a financial planner is, how can I invest money for my kids? What's the best way to do it? So there are four main advantaged ways anyway to save and invest for your children, and it depends what your goals are. Do you want to save for college? Do you want to have a lot of money for them for a rainy day, like maybe they could pay for their own wedding and things like that? um, or do you want just kind of an open-ended savings plan for them? So number one is the 529 savings plan. This is by far the best college option for most people. These accounts are run by the states. The tax structure is pretty favorable. You don't get a federal tax break on your contributions, but no matter how big the account gets, no matter how well your investments do, any withdrawals for qualified education purposes will be tax free. You might get a state tax break on your contributions. I invest in the South Carolina 529 for my children, and they get a nice state tax break on the contributions I make. Um, Investments are generally kind of like a 401k. There's a lot of investment fund options that you can put their money to work in. 529s have very high contribution limits, over $400,000 or more in a lot of cases. So they're generally, you can put enough money in for pretty much whatever educational ambitions you have for your children. The funds must be used for qualified education benefits or education expenses, or transferred to another beneficiary. For example, if my oldest child doesn't use all the money in her account, I can transfer it to my younger child. Or you can withdraw and take a 10% penalty. Money in a 529 remains yours. It's considered your asset, not your child's. So if you end up not using it for education and are fine eating that 10% penalty, you can withdraw money yourself. Um, Number two, the other educational account is called a Coverdale ESA, which stands for Coverdale Education Savings Account. Same basic tax structure as a 529. They're not run by the states, though, so you don't get the state tax benefit. The biggest drawback to a Coverdell is its contribution limit is rather low. $2,000 a year might not be enough for as much as you want to save for college for your children. The funds must be used for qualifying education expenses or pay a 10% penalty, just like a 529. And the biggest advantage of a Coverdell is your investment flexibility. You can use the money to buy individual stocks, any mutual funds you want. So if you wanted to invest some of your children's educational savings in, say, Apple stock, you can use a Coverdell to do that. Number three is a custodial account, also called an UGMA or an UTMA. That stands for Uniform Gift to Minors Act or Uniform Transfer to Minors Act, depending on the state, is what you're going to use. These are essentially a standard brokerage account, just like you and I would open, except you control the investments. You have custody of the investment account, but the money belongs to the children immediately. That's one big difference. You don't have to use it for education. This could be used for any reason. You're essentially setting up your kids with an investment account that you control until they reach a certain age. You can choose either 18 or 21 for the age when your child gets to access the money. Both of mine, I have an UTMA account for both of my kids that they can access when they're 21. This might have some college implications because it's considered the kids' assets. So when it comes to eligibility for financial aid, these could have a more detrimental effect than a 529 or a Coverdell. But they can be great savings tools that your children don't necessarily have to use for education. And number four, it might sound kind of odd to suggest a retirement account for children, but a Roth IRA can be a great way to save and invest money for your kids. Great tax advantages, kind of like a 529. You don't get a tax break on the contributions, but when your kids eventually withdraw the money, they will get they won't pay any tax on it, no matter how much the investments have returned. You can contribute up to $6,000 for a Roth IRA in 2022. The biggest catch is your child has to have earned income. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean from a job. You can pay your child to do work for you. For example, I'm self-employed. I'm making a YouTube video right now. If I want to pay, my 10-year-old to do some kind of clerical work involving this video, then that's perfectly acceptable for a Roth IRA. as long as the compensation is reasonable and there's actually work being done. You won't run afoul of the IRS. So this could be a great ultimate long-term compounding account. Roth IRAs have some really neat provisions that are great for children. For example, you can withdraw money at any time and for any reason in order to pay for college expenses. So it gives you that flexibility, but they don't have to use it for college. And imagine if you had, 70, 60 to 70 years to save for your retirement. That's essentially the gift you can give your kids by opening a Roth IRA. So those are the four basic options for saving and investing money for minors. Hope you found that informative, and please leave me any questions in the chat. I'd be glad to answer any of them, as many as I can. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to click subscribe if you don't subscribe to my channel already. And as always, this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. Be sure to visit www.fool.com/Frankel to receive the top 10 best stocks to buy now.